Hey everybody, CZN just dropped a new, well, I guess an upcoming balance patch for the upcoming season, which should be, what is it, like a little over a week away. So let's get into it. So first up is save data changes. Most of these changes aren't actually going to change a whole lot. They're just trying to make it more readable on the fly. So that way it's a little more understandable as to what something is going to do to your build without having to go out and check it or to use something like a save data builder. My only thing is I feel like they could easily fix this by just showing like how much cost will show up with any change and like what that'll do. Like you'll go from this to that and it'll show your cap, and then that would kind of solve the entire issue. Outside of making it a little or slightly more understandable, there are going to just be some slight changes, and they could be changing more when the actual patch hits. So we'll see changes as they come. First up is neutral cards are going to be a fixed value, meaning whether they have an epiphany or not, they're going to be fixed onto whatever it is, going to be 20 or 30. As it works now, when you get a neutral, it is 20 points, and then when it gets an epiphany, it becomes 30, and then divine, of course, would add on another 20. Divines will still be 20, and now monster cards are all going to be reworked into different rarities, common being, I think, 20. Oh, it tells right here, 20, 50, 80 respectively, going to be common, rare, and legendary. There's going to be a list lower down that you can go ahead and check yourself to see any of the monster card changes there. Card dupes are effectively going to be the same. If you get 3 dupes, you're going to get 40 in total. The big change now is just that the first 2 duplications that you do are going to be free, and then starting from that 30 onward is going to be 40. Which means once you get beyond 3 duplicates, that is when it's going to get slightly more expensive at 10 points more, because at your 4th duplicate, you're going to be at 80, whereas here you would be on 70. Removing any cards besides your starting cards will not give you any points. Each removed starting card will be 20 points. And now, this is a big one, transforming cards is also treated as a removal. So right now we have the freebies. They might still work as freebies. We'll see when the patch hits. But how it works now is any of the events that give you a transform into a card that removes itself at the end of a run, that's essentially just a free removal. So we'll see if that I actually change that. But do know that since transforming is going to be treated as a removal, it's going to be important for this next bit, which is limits will be added to removal and dupes. Dupes, you can dupe a max of 4 times. So that will be a total, if you like duped 1 card, you'd have 5 copies. And removal is going to be limited to 5 times. So just know that that's going to include now transforming cards. Next up is the balance changes, which is going to be combatant reworks, buffs, and partner changes, as well as some memory fragment adjustments, and then a couple changes to some commons or some neutral cards and some gear. As a spoiler, the only thing that is actually going to get reworked / nerfed is Tressa and Cassius. And I have read over all this information beforehand, so it's interesting stuff. First up, we got this nice little picture here that is going to detail the changes. So how Agony is going to work, instead of getting a bunch of individual stacks, you are now going to get just 1 stack of Agony. And then each one of this number is going to be essentially how many individual stacks you would have had beforehand. And you can see here at the end of the turn, damage is dealt based on the number of Agony stacks. Then the stack count is reduced by half. And right here is an important part, which is now that Agony is going to cap at 20 stacks, effectively nerfing Tressa pretty hard. The decreasing by half actually isn't too bad though. It's pretty easy to just apply 10 more stacks with a good build again, or at least hopefully it should still be pretty easy to do that. We will see with all the changes. As you can see here, there are a lot of changes. I'm not going to go over all of them. Just ones that I think are somewhat important, like Advanced Shadow Dagger. It's the one that you get off of the base Shadow Reload, the healing one, and then get an Advanced Shadow Dagger. They're changing Advanced Shadow Dagger, so now it is going to be a 0 cost. And they're getting rid of the double hit or the double stack of Agony. Instead, you're going to just get the 2 stacks of Agony like so. So essentially the same there. It is going to have less base damage, but then it's going to get more damage here based on how much Agony you have on the target. So a total of 20 stacks at cap should make this 200%, making it do 250%. They're also buffing just base Shadow Dagger because they're now just making it 1 stack of Agony, which makes sense with how it used to work. You know, just with the whole rework there. So they're funneling more damage into the cards themselves and then stripping out some Agony, obviously, so it makes a little more sense. And then the most important one here, of course, is going to be this Shadow Reload Epiphany, changing it from the old broken style, which is now changing it entirely. It is no longer going to be an upgrade. It is now just going to exhaust all Shadow Daggers and then create advanced Shadow Daggers for each exhausted. So yeah, that entire build is just completely scrapped into the dust. Essentially, the changes were all just making it so that way she's going to be applying agony, she's going to be doing a bunch of daggers, but she's not going to be able to do her whole infinite dagger shenanigans anymore. So she's still going to be solid, but she's no longer going to be the tier 0 monster that she used to be. So she is getting nerfed pretty damn hard. So far off of my brief read, the biggest change that I think is going to be, I mean, obviously besides completely gutting that build, is going to be her purple card, which is Cursed Gouge. Before it gave you the 2 Agony Imprint and 2 Weaken. Obviously now with Agony capping out at 20, Agony Imprint will have a lot less value. I'm going to miss the 2 Weaken, but now instead it is going to be a 1 cost still, which hopefully is still going to be reduced down to 0 with her first ego, but it's going to activate this unit's Agony applied to the target. And unless this is worded completely wrong, if you're sitting at max stacks of Agony, each stack of Agony is going to do 50% fixed DOT. So at max stacks, that is going to do 1000% damage plus amplified by your DOT substats. So with this activating the Agony, it means you're going to get that 1000 upfront. But the way it's all worded, because it says activated, it should also decrease the stacks by half, unfortunately. There is a way to get a lot of upfront big damage all at once, which is kind of neat. So I can see a lot of value in Cursed Gouge so long as you can then re-up the Agony stacks again within those same turns, in which case that would make Cursed Gouge an actual pretty good duplication target. So we'll have to see once it all comes down to it. But I think it makes Tressa a lot less broken, but obviously a lot more nerfed. So we'll see when we see, but I do think that this is a pretty heavy nerf to Tressa, obviously. And then next up we have Cassius here, and this one's just like big nerfs across the board. I don't remember all the changes, but there are some big ones here. The way they've worded it in other segments throughout this whole write-up on Cassius, quest mechanic changes. They're changing it so that way you're going to get an 80% fixed heal when you use it, or when you complete, I don't know if it's when you complete the quest or when you use it. It seems like when you generate the quest card, and then it caps out at 3 times per turn. The way it's worded elsewhere, it makes it seem like quest cards are now going to be capped, that you can only create 3 in a single turn. At least just off of quest mechanics alone, I don't think that'll affect any cards that will generate any quest cards on their own. But yes, obviously that is a huge hit. Only creating 3 cards a turn rather than before with especially with 000 where you're able to create, I don't know, a lot. Way more than 3 though. And this is kind of a theme they're doing with a lot of changes across the board, but especially with Cassius, they're putting a lot of hard caps on a lot of his stuff. Like right here, 000 up next. It's the same effect. It's the same effect, but it has a base of 40% damage already as well. Not that important, but the stackable damage amount that it had, it is now going to just cap at 4 times. So this should go up to a cap of 200% damage. So yeah, pretty big hit to 000 there. It is going to be the same for the empowered 000. The only quest that didn't get hit is straight, so that one's going to stay the same, but 111 here just gets some number buffs here. And then Full House is also getting a slight buff, mostly in Chaos usability. It's going to decrease the stress of random allies, so neat change there, but obviously 000 getting nerfed, quests getting nerfed in general. Pretty rough there. It does give him a little more healing capability, which makes sense because he is a controller. Then we have Dice Trick, the one that reduces its cost by your completed quests, is now going to get the additional reduce 1 morale for 1 turn, which is pretty cool. We don't have a lot of damage debuffing. Just tuning more into his whole damage reduction shtick, and then as well as kind of a nice nod to his ego, how it reduces morale. So it's cool just seeing that in his kit in general. So I think this is the one cool change that they added into him. That's about it. Everything else is still a pretty heavy nerf. And they are extending that to the AoE as well, so you can get the AoE reduce 1 morale, so that's cool too. They're capping Dice Trick, which is huge damage for each completed quest. Big one there, they're capping that at 5 times. They're changing the upgrade option of Dice Trick that gave you a heal and damage when you use quest cards. They're now making that unique, so you cannot dupe that. I think the quest hit alone was already enough, so it's not a big deal here. I guess more unique tags can be okay for farming. And then they're completely gutting another really OP epiphany, which was the Dice Trick upgrade. When you complete a quest, you create another quest card, so you'd stack those and then you get multiple quest cards every time you completed a quest. They're now making it unique, and at the start of the turn, you instead now just create 1 empowered quest card. Completely random, so again, not that great. Yeah, across the board, Cassius is just significantly gimped. There's really no way who, what, or why about it. He's just significantly worse. He has the damage reduction now. He has the slight stress heal, and then he's got the tiny fixed heal off of his quest. So yeah, feel however you would like to about that. They are both hit pretty hard, but we're also going to be getting, with these changes, we're going to get 3 copies of the new item, Flash of Possibility. This is going to be the start of the save data editing items, and I believe this is across the board. Everybody should be getting this. I don't think this has anything to do with whether you built Tressa and Cassius or whatever. And I'm not going to go too in depth with this. I feel like it's a little too open-ended as to how it's exactly going to work. It just says it allows you to designate a card that can receive a unique epiphany and directly select and apply the desired unique epiphany. So I don't know if this is going to let you change all of your cards or if it only lets you change like one card's epiphany. Because the way I see it is if you duped like a card, you got 4 dupes of a card, but it's the wrong epiphany. If this let you at least change the base card, and then that would change all the duplicate cards, because otherwise it really wouldn't make any sense how those cards existed in the first place. If that's how it works, that's cool. If it only changes the one card and it will not change anything else, or you cannot just freely edit around all of your epiphanies, then I think that these items are actually going to be pretty ass. So we'll see when it actually drops how good they're going to be. And then there's some stipulations with divine epiphanies if it can't like get that specific divine epiphany. We're also going to get a reset feature. If you have built out Tressa and Cassius and you want those resources back, you can go ahead and just do a one-time reset, get all of your resources back, put them somewhere else, save them for the future, whatever you want to do, or you can leave them there. I have pretty much every character built, so I'm not going to touch this, but this is really cool. So other people can now divert those resources wherever they would like to. And now we're into all of the combatant buffs. So first up, counterattack in general, just counterattack period. Damage amount dealt when an attack is fully blocked by a shield will be increased. So fully blocking by a shield will now make counterattack do more damage. They're essentially trying to buff vanguards in a different way to make them have a little more of an identity that is universal across the board rather than specific to things like the Spiral Tower. Ania, she's getting buffs to her healing and changes to elasticity. Is that the one that does the extra attacks, the deck shuffle? Either way, effect will now trigger based on the number of stacks. And then they're changing how healing works on Decibel and then changing some cards there on Nia. So essentially they're just boosting her healing capabilities there. Ray, they're scrapping the crit chance on her basic cards, which were a funny aspect of them. With the potential upgrade, it gave them crit chance, but nobody's really doing damage with Ray anymore. And instead we'll give a damage-based healing effect to essentially give her, again, more healing, and it's not going to be instead so heavily tied to her ego too. And boosting healing on Snack Time or Leia. Or Leia is just getting buffs entirely across the board. They're changing her deck. Instead of having 2 basic attacks, it will now be 1 basic attack and 2 basic skill cards. I really don't remember. I think it's just attacks and heals. It just makes more sense, I guess, early on in Chaos runs. That's about it. But the basic cards that have a chance to create creations, that chance is going to be boosted. They're going to boost the effect values of all creations, so making them all more useful. Very cool. And then I had to pull Orlea up because I kind of forget what cards they do, but Growth Acceleration is going to get buffed heal, and Will of Light is going to get its cost reduced by 1. So going down to a 1 cost. This is an insanely good card for her, so getting that down to 1 is awesome. Up next we have Haru, and it is interesting. They're buffing pretty much every 5-star across the board. I think maybe not every single one, but like majority of them. If they missed any, they missed only like a couple. Unfortunately, I don't think I saw Kayron buffed anywhere, unfortunately, but yeah, they're buffing just about everybody. So Haru is going to get boosted damage on Anchor Shot, her primary source of damage, and Way Anchor is no longer going to boost the cost of Anchor Shot itself. Going back here, which one is it? Way Anchor? I think they mean Lift Anchor. I don't know if that's a bad translation, which does not bode well for our future, but Lift Anchor, it'll boost the cost of your Anchor Shots by 1 when you use it, but it is a huge buff, 70% multiplicative. So this will make Anchor Shot a lot better by not increasing the cost anymore, and it can at least make a decent option for duplication. In general, just great buffs for Haru right there. I've definitely been wanting to play Haru, and this just makes me want to play her even more now. Yuki's getting buffs. Pretty much it's just all damage is just going to be increased for everything, which is cool. And then I feel like this line here might have been, or should have been in a different spot, but it says a single target damage focused effect will be added to low pick rate epiphanies. They have it under the Trickery Strike spot though, so I don't know if they're just doing it to Trickery Strike, they word it in a way that makes it seem like it's going to be for all of her cards. I'm hoping she gets options in all of her cards, not just Trickery Strike. Yes, Yuki buffs are coming, and hopefully she will have her single target build coming up soon. And Chizuru, surprising, but I guess not too surprising. She's probably not used a whole lot anymore, especially, you know, now that Serennial kind of just eclipses all the other DPSs at the moment, or at least all of like the 5-star DPSs. So getting a buff to Karmic Flames, effect triggered, used on targets inflicted with Curse Shackles will be enhanced. So that way it's probably a little more useful when they already have Curse Shackles applied to them. And then reducing the cost of certain epiphanies, cool there. I wish that they would, or I hopefully they change some way that Curse Shackles works with a lot of the epiphanies, because especially in like wave-based content, it's kind of annoying when it's no longer up. She is significantly weaker. They're reworking Inhibit, making it possible again to gain AP through users' own cards and continuous effects. I don't know if they're just completely getting rid of the negative off of Inhibit. We'll see there. They said they wanted her to work a little more like building with other teams, so they might just completely scrap that out. Bound at Dusk, this one is great for me, and its base state, the cost of 2 cards will be reduced. Let me pull up Chizuru. Yes, Bound at Dusk. With the Inhibit changes, it means that Inhibit would no longer give you the whole AP nerf there. And at base value, this is going to, instead of decreasing the cost of 1 random card, it should decrease the cost of 2. Which is great for me with something like a save data build where I didn't get an Epiphany on the 1 card build, or this is now going to be essentially the Epiphany version that already exists, which is, yeah, right here, of 2 cards. So yeah, I love that. Oni Hunt's damage amount increase effects will be enhanced, huge, especially for the, I think it was the, is it 5-hitter? That one will be really big, and then just improving the usability of low pick rate Epiphanies, so cool to see there. They are buffing her created card, boosting its damage, and the cards, this one we'll have to see how it works, but it says will stack even when they are in the graveyard or draw pile. The way that words to me, that they're all going to stack no matter where they are. So as soon as you draw it, you're going to get all of those Shadow of the Moons now. It's not going to be like some might be in the trash. You need to draw those to stack those. And if that's the case, cool. It should make you getting into plus a lot easier and a lot more consistent. And then buffing the damage for Ego, which is cool. Either way, it is cool that a lot of these changes in general are going to make them all a lot more viable in general. But especially Chizuru, like they're making her viability with pretty much everybody going to be a lot more useful, especially if they're going to get rid of the negative on Inhibit, as well as the change on Bound at Dusk. Like that is going to be very huge for her to not only be a solid DPS, but as well as having a really good supporting capabilities there. Very surprised to see this, but Kalipe is getting buffed too. I've been playing a lot of Kalipe recently, so I'm loving this, but they're boosting Upward Slash as the 2 cost. Let me just pull her up. So they're buffing Upward Slash. This is this one. They're boosting its damage before the potential is unlocked. I think that is this, which I don't even have that, so that is perfect. So yeah, they should just be buffing this damage in general, which is cool. This is like one of the only basics that I will keep if I have to keep any of my basics, and I couldn't remove them all, so definitely cool there. They're buffing the damage and shield gain of Vulture Ejection, which is crazy because this is like her best card and kind of her entire identity, so I'm hoping they boost it across the board. Be very cool there. And then they're boosting shield gain on Overpower, another one of her 2-costers to trigger her Celestials. So yeah, Kalipe changes makes me a happy lad in general. Like I said, I think they're trying to give Vanguards a little more viability in all content, especially the future of like limited time Vanguards and what they do and how good they are. You know, especially with 9 coming up, we will see just how viable or how important actually pulling any future Vanguards will really be. Magna changes, I won't lie, I don't have Magna. I don't have Rin either, so I'm just going to say Magna and Rin, I don't really know. Well, you know, how good they are, how bad they are, their position right now. Magna being a Vanguard instantly already drags her down, but it says the entire adjustment direction of her entire kit is to buff damage across the board, and then buff shield gain on Ice Wall specifically. Hugo's biggest complaint is getting addressed, Hunting Instincts. That is this card right here. They're adding Initiation into other select epiphanies, so Initiation means that you start off with it at the start of the fight, and it is kind of the core of his kit because it's how he does his whole like follow-up extra attacks and whatnot. And most of the epiphanies don't have Initiation, so it makes Hugo just significantly worse when you get into those other epiphanies. So just adding on Initiation to most of his other epiphanies is going to be really, really good. And then Rin, again, I don't have her, I don't play her, so I've never played her. I didn't even play her in the playtest, so I have no clue about her. So you can read those for yourself. Increased card hit count on anything though, on literally anybody's card would be a pretty insane buff. So cool. Looks like Rin's getting some pretty good buffs there. All right, on to partner buffs. So an important part here is they're going to be adjusting or adding in attack and defense increase effects to most 4-star and 5-star partner passives, essentially just making them a lot better than what they currently have. A lot of them are conditional, or they're not even better than just giving them more attack or defense. But these specific changes are going to be hitting Asteria, Westmacott, and Itsuku. That is, I believe that was Haru's. I don't really remember, but I think this is Haru's limited partner. Westmacott was Yuki's, and Itsuku was Chizuru's. So Asteria is getting a huge buff to her ego skill. It was 20% damage amount of the next attack card for the total cost of all cards in hand, capping at 10, and they're just doubling that out now. So that is huge. Westmacott is now going to get a cost reduction, now only costing 2, which is insanely good now for her. But you know, you move 1 card from hand to your draw pile, and then you get to draw 2 of the assigned combatants cards. So huge. Westmacott, if you have her, that is a really, really good change. And then Itsuku, they are just dropping the cost from 4 to 3. Now on some memory fragments, there's going to be 3 sets that are going to be changed. I'm just going to try and give you a visual and give you an idea of where we're at right now. But the first one is Orb of Inhibition. Right now, when hitting 2 times with 1 attack card, any multi-hit single attack cards, plus 10% damage amount to void cards for 1 turn, capping twice, so 20% more damage. Highly conditional, but not too hard to pull off. Next is going to be Instinctual Growth. When you have 4 or more cards in hand, increase damage amount of instinct cards by 20%. Decent, okay. And then Spark of Passion, which personally I don't know if it's really needed to change, but neat otherwise. When an upgrade card is used, increase damage amount of the next 5 passion cards used by 20%. So somebody like Veronica, pretty easy for this to have 100% uptime anyway. So with those in mind, Orb of Inhibition, the Void one, is now just going to get 30% damage amount to Void cards that hit 2 or more times, period. I still think this is pretty niche, but still will be pretty good for somebody like Chizuru, but not so crazy that I think you really need to go farm a set of this if you don't already have it farmed out. Instinctual Growth, they're just changing it from 4 cards in hand to 3 or more cards in hand, so making that condition a little easier to hit. And then Spark of Passion, one that we will just have to see when we see it, but increased damage amount of passion cards by 20%, period, when an upgrade card is used, capping at 1 stack. So if this is like a permanent stack and it never gets consumed, that is cool. It doesn't say for the turn, so I assume this is just permanently, which makes Spark of Passion really good and really easy to use just on anybody who is passion. Genuinely though, even with all of these changes, it does make them better and it makes them a little easier to use, but still, it's going to be hard to beat 2-2-2 split, honestly. All right, gear and card changes. There's really not a lot here, so if you want to check these out yourself. The big thing is they're giving some hard caps to a couple of pieces of gear that give you shield on some relatively easy conditions. And then for cards themselves, these cards are cards that nobody uses, and I think even with these changes that they still won't really be used. This one like boosts damage amount to targets granted shield by 25%. If this is not multiplicative, this is whatever, because that is only 5% over morale. So who really cares? But Wanderer of the Void and Rally. Wanderer of the Void is now going to get Exhaust, which sucks. But yeah, Wanderer is now going to Exhaust, and same thing with Rally. It is now going to get Exhaust too. So at least Rally will get to use it twice, but still both pretty big nerfs to both of them. Or you could consider them buffs if you only need to utilize those effects 1 time. But as far as general purpose is concerned, overall I would consider these to be nerfs because these cards are so good, especially if you get some really good epiphanies like Wanderer of the Void. You need to get like an insane epiphany, I think, to get it to recycle or to draw you 1. But Rally already drawing you 1 just means that this is essentially just a flat out nerf, because it already refilled itself in your hand. So too bad, so sad, but not the biggest deal, I suppose. And then here are all of the classifications for monster cards if you want to check those out, showing you what rarity they will now be, so that way you have an idea of what their costs will be. As well as an adjustment to Spirit Kefox, which before you would draw 1 card and then you would duplicate that card into your hand. And now it'll instead just apply Retrieve to that card. So bit of a nerf there, but I guess I shouldn't outright say a nerf. Retrieve could be better in some situations, who knows, but those are all of the changes. And we'll have to wait and see when some actual patch notes come for Season 2 stuff. So this was all just balance changes that will be coming with it. Yeah, let me know what you think. Honestly, the buffs are cool and whatnot. I definitely will love to see and play with these, especially when it comes to the 5 stars. I really want to play with Haru. Definitely want to test out Yuki's new potential there, and then Chizuru getting surprisingly huge buffs here that will be really cool to see. But more importantly is just seeing the Tressa and Cassius nerfs. I still think they're definitely going to be usable, and I think Tressa will still be able to do pretty decently. But yeah, these nerfs hurt, and some of the nerfs I hate the most, I think, is going to be Cassius. Cassius just getting the hard caps in general just kind of kills a lot of freedom when it comes to playing these characters in other modes, going into the future and whatnot. Like thinking of the new uncapped roguelike mode that's supposed to come at some point in time. I think that's not until like season 3. But then just having all these hard caps is just like pretty sad to see. I just think that specifically Cassius's changes are a little uninspired, but overall I do think that these characters needed to be changed and they needed to be hit in some capacity, because obviously they were a little too busted, a little too broken, and really just killed a lot of interest and a lot of excitement as far as like future teams, and killed a lot of team building with just how busted and how much stronger these characters were than pretty much any other character. Again, I don't know if I already mentioned it, but 4 stars are the only characters that got nerfed. Literally 5 stars all had to get buffed. That should tell you just how strong these characters were. But that's about it for all of the balance changes. Appreciate everybody for watching. Love to hear what everybody thinks about all of these upcoming balance and changes. But yeah, until next time, take care and catch you in the next one.